Hey there.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. Um,
So, I don't really have a, I wasn't really sure how um, to like lay this thing out because it's not really like a show or scripted or anything like that. Um,
right.
but thank you for being able to talk.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I feel really honored that you want to talk about this with me and that it sounds like it's going to be really interesting. And I also just, generally, as your friend, want to hear what happened.
Thank you. Yeah. Um, I suppose I should introduce myself. My name's Eamon, or I go as Ink, and I just wanted to talk and explore these experiences I told you a little bit about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking with my friend Emily. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, Emily, like you said. And I am currently a journalist in Charlottesville, Virginia. I am um, I go by pronoun she. I'm white, and but I love talking about gender and race and all that, which is why I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, and I go by neutral pronouns. They and them are good. And I am trying to do arts programming here in New Haven. Um, and also been trying to really like intentionally um, do a lot of art around mental health and gender equality. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to tell me about what happened a few days ago?
hmm Uh, and I should also note for like the recording, just to, because these are also like friends and like real people. Like I'm going to edit out their names just to protect feelings and things like that. No way meaning to turn people into a monster. I just want to explore these experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I suppose what I'm feeling right now is a lot of mixture of disappointment um, and also hurt.
Mm.
I started to tell you previously, a few days ago, it was a there was a couple compounding experiences. Uh, one where one friend of dropped out of a book project that I'm working on around gender,
Mm. Mm.
um, purely by her own choice, which is totally fine. But I guess I
Mm.
didn't realize until she chose to drop out just how much I really wanted her to be a part of that program, and
Mm.
been struggling with that disappointment and not really sure what to
Yeah.
do with that.
Mm.
And later on in the same day, two other of my friends, I don't think you've met yet, reached out to like intentionally exclude me from their cis white feminine space,
Mm.
which I don't really understand at all, and like really hurt.
Mm. Mm.
Not,
How did they do that? What happened?
it actually surprised me because let's see, to my knowledge, actually in the psych world for the last week and a half, and I had very little knowledge about that. And we'd maybe just seen each other the previous day, just for like a fun little friend get together with board games and whatnot. And reached out to me specifically first just asking for one of the board games. You know, words were, you know, could I borrow this game? We're having a girls only night, and I guess that in itself really didn't trigger anything. It's just like kind of confused. Like so it's so you know I'd said, you know, maybe let's wait until we can all hang out to do something like that. And that's when it became like more like, well, you know, no, like this is really just like the cis girls only, and it's there to be like no guys around, which I could understand. Trying to look at it from his point of view, that you know, she just doesn't want temptation or anything, but I don't understand reaching out to tell me, hey, like, we want your stuff,
Right.
but like not you.
Right, right. Yeah.
And then like as they really like added, I felt like a level of like screw you on top of that, that it was worded and intending to be worded so gendered.
Right, right. When they know how you identify, they have like talked about it with you in the past and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that says so much. Yeah. When I was thinking about this conversation, I was thinking about an article I read in the New Yorker a while ago about like basically a certain, like, I guess second generation feminists being really and this is sort of came up recently as well, and like being really exclusive of trans people, and I just think that's such a limited version of, you know, it's definitely white feminism that like, you know, sees feminism as women's empowerment, when in my mind feminism is about like eliminating the ways that the gender like constricts all of us and pulls on us and disproportionately you know, like subjects, you know, women and trans people to certain kinds of violence, certain kinds of erasure, and I think to not see how vulnerable people who are like gender neutral or trans are within the ways that like, for me as a cisgendered woman, it's pretty like there, like I experience sexism and I get mad at guys in my workplace, but I think that that it, I don't know. It's important to remember that there's like a very defined place for me, and there's always a community that's easy for me to access, and I think it's really sucky to not understand how that's different for someone who, yeah, how how that like women's empowerment would affect you, and it just seems so sucky to like if they had a certain group of like cisgender women that they wanted to hang out with, then they should have just like hung out with them and not excluded you in such a like terrible way, you know?
Yeah, um, uh, that's I guess yeah that's the part that really confused me, because you know even though I identify neutrally, I know that
Mm-hmm.
I have the privilege of being very male passing. Um, I've been called a burly bear and things of the such. I've got a big, huge, shaggy beard, and during the day job, when I work in construction, I'm around 40 or so other cisgendered males that look like that. And I try not to take that home with me, but, and I think it would also, it confuses me because, like, it potentially would be maybe a different situation if I even knew that this hangout thing was going to happen. Um, it was sort of completely unbeknownst to me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't ask to hang out. Um, I didn't know it was going to happen. Um, so, like, I'm really, really struggling, and can kind of hear it in my voice as I'm talking about it. Like, I'm really struggling with the necessity to, um, like I already said, I guess, like the necessity to come out and be like, hey, we're doing this thing that you're not included in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really, really, really aggravating.
Mm.
And like I don't even think I like I didn't know it was happening, and as I was getting more aggravated in the experience, like uh, didn't have an interest in going either at any point.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I guess in the conversation, like it just more and more aggravatedly um, tried to express that 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 I don't want to be reached out to be excluded.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that sucks. So when you tried to express that, the person who was reaching out to you just did not understand.
No, um, I think from my read of it, uh, both girls um, got like defensive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Told me that I was causing stress and that they didn't want to talk about it. which for I think she was just getting out of the psych ward.
Right, right.
So it's like a lot of information all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
I'm not sure. I know that she publicly identifies as a queer person, and she sent one message of, there's a lot of miscommunication in our community, but this was also like that message was like included in the same sentence as like, but this is like a cis woman thing only.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. It sucks so much. Have you had other similar experiences to this in the past? Well, I mean, I think about times when I've said things to you that weren't, immediately afterwards. I was like, that was not thoughtful. I wish that I hadn't said it. But I think in none of those cases did you express that you were uncomfortable and then I continued to say it. I think that's a pretty sucky thing. To not be able to hear someone be upset and try to be there for them.
I guess the experiences that I have with it most frequently are the ones at my job,
Mm-hmm.
my day job, in construction. The stereotypes about construction workers being very homophobic and sexist, and a lot of toxic masculinity is alive and strong at
Right, right.
that job. And for the most part, I try not to take that home with me.
Mm-hmm.
Also, about like not being able to hear one another, and the intensity of it with these two friends. Has since told them both like I don't want to talk for a while,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and like block them on social media and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I also did for two, but I think that conversation went better. We could hear each other a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Have your roommates or anyone else in your life been sort of supportive in the meantime while you've been dealing with this?
I haven't been taking it so well. Uh, my roommates are pretty good, but I've been just sort of going day by day. Can't really sleep. I'm really glad that we're talking now, and that we're also recording this conversation to put out as not like a show or anything, but like a genuine snippet of life. I think
Right.
it's really healing to me right now in the moment, and I think it's potentially a healthy thing to try and do.
Right. Right.
So thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, this.
I always find that conversations like this with friends or when I hear them on the radio are really helpful to me to understand because I have, I mean, white supremacy, really blinds all of us, or, well, blinds white people in particular, and then with gender, I think, cisgender men can be more blinded, and, as, so I always feel that conversation, or like, I often see when white people, or in this case, maybe your friends, are doing things that are just really harmful, I always feel like they're not seeing it properly from your perspective, for example. That like conversations like this are really helpful for understanding, like you said, you were not sleeping well, right? Did I hear that right? Yeah. Just hearing more about like the kind of effects, which obviously I am pretty sure that your friends didn't have that reaction to this conversation, and I think that's it's like when I think you shared on Instagram maybe that cartoon of like unequal care where someone's one friend hurts the other, and then this friend who got hurt goes home and thinks about it and has to like sort of think about the intentions of their friend and like how did this happen, and just it just like keeps rattling around in us, and then that friend goes back and says like, you hurt me in this way, and then the friend who hurt the other one, gets upset or starts crying or whatever, and then the friend who got hurt has to comfort that one, the one who hurt them. So that's, I forget what the term is, but unequal care, I guess.
Yeah, that's that was the cartoon about imbalanced emotional labor in relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just feel like
go ahead, sorry.
Like this podcast is really helpful for balancing that a little bit, so that like I know when I hear about for example, different forms of racism, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I've done that before, and it's just helpful for me to hear it in this sort of detached form, so then I can go through the stages of defensiveness, of like feeling upset, feeling like a terrible person, go through all of that on my own, and then come back into my relationships with like a better sense of, okay, I know when to try to listen. So that's part of why I think this is such a good idea that you had.
Interesting.
And I'm glad. Let me know how else I can be like helpful in the healing process for you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when I'm not in their heads. I can't express how they were thinking, but I think talking about the added emotional labor or imbalanced emotional labor, like like the act of um, when you can't hear each other and saying like, oh, okay, well, like we need, like, or I need space now, and I'm also going to block you on social media things, right? Like that's a lot of I think that's a reaction of imbalanced emotional labor.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Right.
I tried to come back, not perfectly, but the best I could to express what the hurt was, and we couldn't hear each other. So
Mhm.
um,
Right.
then it was more defensiveness, and
Right. Right.
so, and
Yeah.
I think I also really struggle with yeah, mm, I think I really struggle a lot with taking on emotional labor.
Mm. Mm.
And I panic a lot still. And
Mm.
and
Like, what does that involve? Panic. Is that like
so
panicking that you'll lose a friend, or I think I don't understand.
oh um for even though I have a lot more tools now um, to express myself and assert myself, I think I do. When I'm panicking, um, I certainly have a hard time, or a harder time communicating. Um,
Mhm.
I certainly sometimes, uh, when I'm really hurt or sad, will like cocoon up and like, just retreat um, back to my bed or my room or something.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Your beautiful room.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, and I think maybe it'll be a topic to talk about another time, but I remember um, the feeling of losing a lot of friends, which I did recently, that you know of.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that that uncertainty, uh, I'm not so apologetic of like the leftover barbs I have from that experience, um,
Mm.
which I think I come off more um, brash. Is that a word? That's not what like more um, angry and intense because of that fear.
Mm. Right.
So it's like a vicious sort of cycle of like this hurt, okay, we can't really talk about this. I'm still feeling this hurt, but maybe I should hurt you more before you can hurt me, which worries me
Right.
and isn't healthy.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that you say that. Um, are you still there?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to me that you say that's how you respond, because I've just never seen you respond like that, and I've never like seen you mad. I've seen you really hurt. Um, I've been mad on your behalf for, for about one of your friends in particular, past friends. But yeah, I can't even really imagine you you being angry. I just haven't seen that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like yeah, something, whatever is going on must be really sucky for you to be pushed to that, is what I'm thinking.
Well, I'm also on the inside of my head. I don't know how that looks on the outside.
Are you telling me you've been angry at me and I didn't realize?
No, I'm just like I don't know how I. Yeah, I guess I can't
Yeah.
know how I come off, except by what others tell
Yeah.
me.
Right. Yeah.
I did to try and I guess another way that I've been channeling these last few days, and you'll see it. Um, I'll probably use it as the background to this podcast. I started sketching this weird figure. It's all just like I don't know what it is. It's a person, but they have too many faces. They're reclined on their side, very
Right.
relaxed and also twisty. And there's two opposing faces on their head, and then their chest is also a face that looks a lot like my face, but it's um, biting off two of its own fingers.
Mm. Oh my goodness.
Hmm. It's odd. I don't know.
So what is that about?
Hmm. Maybe it's about feeling pulled in a couple different directions and um, a feeling of like doing like emotional harm, or like self-inflicted emotional harm, um, by expressing myself. Maybe. Which might play back into like the emotional labor stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's I feel like it can be a really hard question of whether to express some of these things. Like in most of my life, most of the interactions of my life, I'm really about, expressing things, and you seem even more that way. Like you are honest. There have been so many instances where you've prompted honesty with me that I was not ready for. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to like drop that sort of, mask of politeness that I sort of use as like my general way to approach people, and like really question that. And anyway, but so my I've just been sort of attempting to be more and more honest, aside from some, politeness things that just seem necessary, time to time. But starting the sort of a career in journalism, I'm working for the first time in a way that's not something I can just this is the first time I've been in something where I've been really dependent on people who are sort of higher up than me. And that affects whether I can express myself in ways that I'd never experienced before. So that is creating a lot of stress for me. So my like sort of current feeling is that like not saying things creates a lot of stress and a lot of just this sort of build up of like most of the sorry Tommy came in very briefly and then left. Most of the dinners that I have are like, especially Monday through Friday, I'm like complaining in like the harshest possible terms about something that happened at work, and sometimes I just really misunderstood what was going on. So anyway, my the reason why I'm saying this is it's interesting to hear about the ways like expressing yourself can feel like self-inflicted harm, because like currently I'm not expressing myself and that feels like self-inflicted harm, but I can't even there's no way I could express the things that I expressed to like my parents to in my workplace. Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose I talked a bit about the construction job, that workplace, but I don't really interact that with the rest of my life as much. I guess one place I have really been expressing myself, that is also work, has been this book, which you know some about. I actually even did ask you to participate in it as well.
Yeah.
And I find it confess, is very hard to express myself that way. It also has to do bigly about personal narrative and gender, and asks to share that with a lot of people. But I think I find it difficult because, unlike something like this little doodle, which is, just myself, I can start and stop whenever I want. It really forced me to be more honest, aware of my own privileges, and communicate over a long span of time that with others.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. 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 That project is so ambitious, and yeah. I remember that we were talking about me participating, and
Mm-hmm.
and I backed out a little bit, like on the when I went up to New Haven after I'd gotten back from India, and because I spent a year in India on a research fellowship, and so I was back after a whole year, and just, it felt really different being with you in person than over email, and just the, being like in person for the first time in such a long time made me feel like more like uncomfortable, and in some ways like to immediately do something that is so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I'll we'll figure out a way to do the project when I get back up there.
I think I've, in some ways, have, in some ways, kind of want to back out of it myself. Like the project, I feel really hopeful about it, and I've definitely never done. Thanks, Mouth. Never done something that ambitious before.
Yeah.
And I find it in some ways uncomfortable or trying to represent it, and by extension present myself over and over to different friends and family. And but and well, so I don't know what I want to do there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just as much. I hope we can figure out some way to do it when you come up, and I hope I can
Yeah.
figure out some way to keep moving on it.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking maybe we should talk about a little bit more about what you see, you know, what you are trying to achieve with the project. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the goals at the beginning of the podcast, but like sort of talk more about your medium and it's portraiture, right? It's photographs and it's sort of nude portraits of friends and family, and I think that's something that's really hard, and like you were saying, it's even hard for for you to do that with yourself.
Yes.
And it's like clothing is such a defense in so many ways. Like it really feels like
It
yeah.
let's see, I think so. It's, it's a little bit. It's a growing idea, and it's been a growing process for myself, both being a part of the work and also trying to expand it beyond myself. I I saw it as a way to start a visual dialogue of being self-accepting, of being self-trusting, and as a chance to share your own narrative, not necessarily with the world, but just to share your own story,
Right.
which goes beyond
Yeah.
the photographs. I think the book that I hope to produce with it will the the actual story will come from those who participate, like the stories that they want to share.
Right.
But with that's certainly asking a whole bunch. I understand, and I said this to backed out of the project, feeling some uncomfort herself. Um, I think there's a privilege in being a more experienced artist and or model for photography, certainly nude photography, and that there should that and like asking someone who is less experienced to partake in it. That I try to think about. Not try. I do think about before even bringing the idea up to someone. And I think there's also like a whole bunch of different a chance to have a whole bunch of different really good open dialogues or create even like rules and boundaries about trust. I remember you having bringing the idea to me about a safety word, platypus. Which was like really good. It's both a good idea and like made this new thing less like boring and serious, and but also like intentionally less uncomfortable and also fun.
Right. Yeah. So I think I have maybe 5 more minutes on my recorder.
Oh, geez. We can really talk.
I'm not sure why that is. I couldn't figure out whether I needed to delete files, but
Never delete.
Yeah.
Archive. Come on. You know.
Yeah, I have copies somewhere else.
Well,
this recorder has a like 2 megabyte or something. What's 2 gigabyte?
probably
like
2 gigabytes.
Micro SD card.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Well, I suppose we should start wrapping up. But wherein we could fit it in, I would be down to. Well, first of all, like I don't feel so intense anymore, and I'm really glad that we were able to start talking. So thank you.
I'm so glad.
And I'd be totally down to do something like this again.
Yeah.
It's very different. Usually,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times similar to you at work, like I share the more polished version of myself, and this is very raw and not practiced, which is super different.
Yeah. It's lovely. Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me be part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we don't know how to end. Insta awkward.
Oh, yeah. We can start on a new topic, but that'll take beyond the 2 minutes left. We could just giggle our way out. That works too.
Welcome to the Never Ending Podcast. Hope you enjoy listening forever.
Yeah, just it's a laugh track,
Yeah.
but with nothing in front of it. It's like rain sounds, you know, just like aiming Eamon and Emily giggling. It's a good way to increase your productivity.
Right? Alright, so let's wrap it up, and yeah, I will.
Yeah. So.
I guess I will text you and then turn off my recorder and whatnot.
Yeah. Maybe it was occurring to me that maybe we should have like clapped at the beginning to sync our tapes or something.
Oh my.
Maybe we should clap at the end to sync them.
Well, here. Let's clap in on 1, 3, 2, 1. So close.
Okay, cool.
Total profesh.
We're so professional.
Love it. Alright, Emily.
Well, okay. Bye.
Bye.